Hey everyone, welcome back to another Persona 5 Fandom Mix video, and in today's video, I kind of just want to go over the quote-unquote must pulls that are coming out in the next year. And kind of want to talk about why they're good, what makes them good a little bit, as well as kind of why a lot of damage dealers aren't really must pulls, but instead more of the supporting side, and then of course our navigator side. But with that, let's begin. Our first meta-defining pick was actually the first 5-star navigator, Phoebe. Even though she was a standard character, she defined the meta for so long because she was the only 5-star meta for quite a while, for about 6 months of the game cycle. And what she provided was a lot of generally good buffing abilities, as well as her whole thing was built around picking up different cocktails, which is what she does in the game. She's a bartender. And then taking those cocktail mixtures and basically increasing a specific element's damage. So if you were running like mono teams, which is very prominent at the time, such as even we're seeing now, mono fire, mono curse, and then very quickly in the future it was mono bless, or like close to mono bless because of Marion and Summer Closer. She would just buff all of their damage because of the one specific element for each of her Tailmate or standard basic cocktail mixture. And then the next person who defined the meta for so long is our girl Chord right here. She is still prominent to this day in TW and China, and she's coming back because of the character Barry. So for any character who wants to be scaling off of both attack and wants to use highlights, you will want to put Chord on that team. So really, every team in the game, besides Yusuke, all the way up until the P3 collab, because the P3 collab doesn't use highlights, they were using Thurgy. So you were using Chord for everything. And right now, she's not as strong on the bossing side, but for just general gameplay wise, going through stories, going through anything like that, you will want to put Chord on the team because it will make your life easier. And it's even recommended to pick up her A1 because her A1 just made her life so much easier. And then when you also included her weapon, because it gave a amazing 30% attack buff, which is what she wants. She wants attack to give to her teammates. And as well as at the start of battle, fill the highlight gauge by 40%. It is massive. And then on top of everything, when she has her co-star, it's increasing their co-star's attack by additional 15%. And as well as just giving a general attack buff when using highlight or Thurgy. So she was and still is the meta-defining supporting character, and was honestly our best support all the way through Winvast and going into basically Yukari is what it felt like. So our next meta-defining character, and was also seen as another must pick, was our girl here, Futaba. What Futaba did was she would use she would have amazing debuffs, decreasing the enemy's defense, increasing the damage they take, as well as weakness implanting, which what a weakness implant does was, let's say that you're running a fire team with On or Chinese New Year Ren in the future, and the enemy was immune to fire. So you use a fire ability and they would be immune, so take no damage. And what that immunity would turn into would be just a simple resist. And then it would go from resist to normal. So it would just take normal damage, and then from normal to now being weak, and now you can start knocking them down. And but it would only last one turn. But because of that, you didn't need to use the specifically right team for it. So you didn't need to use the weakness as much, especially if you're looking at the normal side. I saw her almost as, if you ever played Honkai Starvale, as Silverwolf, because Silverwolf did the exact same thing in that game. And then our next is the best girl, Howler. Howler is an amazing, just an amazing debuffer, just in general. She's really good at AoE debuffing, and she's also good at single target debuffing. And on the AoE side, she's been taken over by Matoi, but even without Matoi, I would still want to run Howler because of how great she is. She also works really well with On and Chinese New Year Ren, because a lot of her abilities and her dupes specifically talk about increasing fire damage taken. But even without the fire damage taken, just how much defense decrease she does on two of her abilities. And then you also got the Woof Woof Roo, which this is such an amazing ability because of the damage taken. And in the future, she just starts scaling off of ailment accuracy. So instead of scaling off of straight attack always, a lot of her defense decreases and damage up scales off of ailments, which is what she scales off of, because she starts now converting her ailment accuracy into straight up attack, so increasing her own damage taken as well. And then just her A2, if you ever get it, any foe with a debuff from Howler will just straight up take 36% more crit damage, but also receives less healing. So for any fight where there's a lot of annoying healing, you throw on a A2 Howler, which hopefully you can luck into, you will have no problem with clearing that content. And then a character we're seeing a lot more used nowadays in China and Taiwan, well, even at the start when she came out, is Vast. Vast is another supporting character, another support, who gives amazing buffs for both crit and crit damage. The only problem with her at the start was a lot of people wanted her A1, because it basically changed her weather ability, which is when taking wind damage increases that damage attack from wither to wind of vitality, which just means when taking wind damage to when taking any elemental damage. Additionally, increase the main target's crit damage taken by 30%, and additionally increase sweeper thieves attack by 25%. So it's increasing any sort of AoE thief damage, but also it's now taken out of the needing wind, and now any elemental damage can do it. So A1 you would probably want to do with this character, but she is used for any sort of bossing fight. And if you want Makoto Yuki in the future, she is the best in slot support for him, I mean. Even taking account of Yukari. But that's why like she is really wanting A1. But even without A1, a lot of people are figuring out ways to work around that. And she is the only reason why you can even use Mont in the first place, I would say. So if you ever want 5-star Mont in the future, you're also going to want to pick up a wind. So when Chinese New Year Ren came out, she changed from a curse damage dealer into, or a curse debuffer, into a fire sweeper, or a fire AoE damage dealer. And what they did along with her release is they've physically had to rework technical mastery. They had to physically redo technical abilities. So this is a big long list of what technical does, but they physically changed the entire mechanic called technical around Chinese New Year Ren, and as well as her best in slots support Matoi. Both of these characters work off of doing technical stuff. And because of that, they were meta defining for such a long time, where any sort of AoE content, you were using Chinese New Year Ren for a very long time. But at the time, it was kind of hard to want to do Chinese New Year Ren, because you were looking at wanting to at least get A1 or A2 if you had a lot of dupes on your on. Because with them changing and making Chinese New Year Ren good, they also at the same time made on good. And that's why she wasn't really a must pull. But she is still one of the, if not the best AoE damage dealer in the game, especially if you throw on Howler and Matoi onto the team, because then Chinese New Year Ren is doing an absurd amount of damage. And then another character that we're going to be seeing a lot of in the future, and that is of course the girl Turbo, who is another standard character. The standard characters in this game are just so amazing, or I should say the new standard release characters. And what Turbo does is she works off of a rework system called Pierce. So pre-Turbo, we were seeing a lot more defense decrease, such as what we saw in Futaba. But after Turbo release, they completely reworked Pierce, Armor Pierce, so that it actually works really well now and works in tandem with defense decrease. While before, it just didn't work that well with defense decrease, and defense decrease just worked way better. And she, of course, what she does is she scales off of speed, wanting as much speed as possible, honestly, on her. And she increases attack as well as armor pierce or defense pierce. And she can work well with any extra action type characters, which what comes after Turbo is, of course, one of the most, if not the most, broken units in the game, which is our newest navigator, Ange, which was our anniversary character, who just is an amazing character in herself. You know, giving attack, giving pierce, just giving so much good buffing abilities. She also, on top of her normal abilities, she gives a character an extra action. So starting on turn 2, or if in the future, if you have a lot of dupes on her, she gives an extra action, which is an amazing thing. You pair it with Turbo, that character is doing an absurd amount of damage. But the buffing that Ange supplies is, as we can see, attack. She's giving pierce. She's giving straight up just damage dealt increase, and she scales off of attack herself. So everything about her just feels amazing. Her A1, when you're using Wheel of Time, which is her third ability, just straight up gives 12% crit rate, which just means that building your attack damage dealers are now even better, because it makes it the crit less reliant upon it. But overall, this character is the most broken one in the game, and if you don't pick her up, I'm sorry, you are making a mistake as of right now, because there is nobody better than what she does. And of course, being another navigator, she basically just replaces Phoebe and does what Phoebe does, but way better. And you kind of work Ange and Futaba together, because you always want 2 built teams. But with that, as we can see, I didn't really talk about our damage dealers that much because of how fast they get power crept. Like right now, we're getting Yui, but she gets power crept immediately by Makoto. So we're going from like 100,000 damage in a turn to all of a sudden now we're seeing 1 million. And then Makoto, if you want to talk about damage dealers, Makoto runs all the way until Mont. So Makoto is the best damage dealer in the game until Mont. But then the problem with grabbing Mont is that within a month from her release, we get Kasumi. And then, who is an amazing damage dealer, can easily do at A0, R0, can easily do 1 million. But then after Kasumi, who do we get? Well, we get Makoto Yuki. About 4 months after, 3 to 4 months after, we'll be getting Makoto Yuki, which is our current best single target damage dealer in the game. And then we look at our AoE damage dealers. Well, right now we have Joker. After Joker, we go into Summer Closer. Summer Closer we're going to have by probably, for us, September. Like sometime mid-September. Well, I would highly advise picking her up, because then she's good all the way until Chinese New Year Ren. Chinese New Year Ren is an amazing character. But then we also just got Akihiko, and that's kind of why, like, they get, our damage dealers get power crept a lot sooner and easier as compared to our supporting units such as Chord and Wind. Those 2 units have remained a permanent fixture in many teams for a very long time. Wind, of course, more recently because she came out with 3.0, but then Chord, like I said, we're still seeing Chord today, and she's getting brought back with the new unit, Barry. That's literally releasing today. And then of course we can look at our navigators. We don't get many navigators, and we went from Phoebe, which we'll be getting soon, probably in August, to Futaba, and those were the 2 main navigators for almost, well, she's gonna be around for about 9 to 10 months. She's still being used today for a lot of content, because anytime you don't really want a lot of Pierce content, well, then we'll be using her over Ange. But then Ange straight up just basically power crept Phoebe. But you gotta think, Phoebe lasted 10 months to like 9 to 10 months, and that's why picking up the supporting characters are much more important and much more must pulls and more meta defining because of all of that. They were just a lot more safer and better pulls than compared to our damage dealers, where our damage dealers do a good enough job, but every few months we're getting a new single target DPS, we're getting a new AoE DPS. Like, the bright side of this game though is the fact that the developers are willing to buff older units, such as what they did to our girl Haru. Haru used to need A1 with Summer Moko, but then when they did a bunch of balance changes when Turbo came out, they really brought Haru into the mix and made her an amazing character, and only really wanting A1 with her weapon. And she can now be a standalone unit and will only need and work off of really Chord, and you can throw in Turbo, for example. But with that, I'm going to end the video there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.